Already. Is gaming dying? Or are we entering a new age?
It's 2012, it's raining outside, and you've just come home from school and you run to turn on the Xbox 360. You see a
Oh, bro, that sound. I was always so happy when I was a little kid because I had a 360 back in the day. When that sound popped up and I was playing Call of Duty, I was like, oh, somebody wants to play. That just brings back so many memories. That little dink, bro. That's just it's a nostalgic sound.
party invite straight away from your friend to jump on the new Call of Duty. After hours of playing, no matter winning or losing, you're still having fun. When your friend comes off for dinner, you decide to jump on a game like Skyrim for a couple of hours and just enjoy some fantasy fun. Finding the massive world impressive, but not being aware of why you find it so impressive or even immersive.
Bro, the reason I found it so immersive and impressive is because I wasn't terminally online in the way I kind of am, but not really am now compared to back then. Like, yes, the internet was around back then, but it wasn't as big of a thing. Like, I didn't meta the shit out of every game to figure out what's good and what's bad. I was just in my own little bubble, playing whatever console game and just enjoying the shit out of it. And what's funny is that in Skyrim, when I first got the game on the midnight release, the same way I cheesed the hell out of Oblivion in that I got my stealth up really high really quick, is the same way I cheesed the hell out of Skyrim. So, what was it? I think it was in Skyrim. In the beginning, there's a part, like, after you like get through the prisoner scene and you run away from the dragon and shit, there's this part where there's like a big ass bear in a cave. And I was like, oh, this is it. This is the time. But the bear didn't move. It was like sleeping. So what I did is I go into crouch mode and there was like a rock or like a stalagmite thing, some formation where I could cut the line of sight of the bear and myself. And in Oblivion, you could go into crouch and push yourself in a corner, like in the prison, and your stealth would just go up. Like, your character didn't have to be moving. As long as you're just like constantly walking into a corner, you could just like sit yourself there, like jerry rig and rubber band or string the stick forward and like just have it go. So in Oblivion, I had to use one string or rubber band to max out my stealth. But in Skyrim, I needed two strings. Okay? So what I did was I did something where I had like two weights and I tied a string around the weight and then I tied the string around the stick. And what was it? Like, I pushed the left thumbstick forward, so you're going forward, and the right thumbstick, like, trying to figure out that perfect 90-degree angle. And I tied that, and I, like, strung it behind the controller, and I set it on the ground, so there's a weight on one side, holding the thumbstick, like, to the right, and a weight on the back side of the controller, so the thumbstick is getting pulled forward. So I would be going forward and to the right, and I'd be, like, just stealthing in a circle behind a rock. And how you gain level ups in stealth is, I had no idea of this at the time. I just had an inkling this is how it worked. You have to be within the range of an enemy in crouch mode where that little eye is there for you to like gain stealth. So I figured it out, and like I get done like rigging it all up and I just let the game play. I was like, oof, this is it. This is the part where I get 100 stealth right off the bat. And I swear to God, if there were leaderboards for like skill, like maxing out a skill, I guarantee you I would have been like the world first like 100 stealth. Because once I got to that scene, it was only a matter of like hours until I got stealth to 100. Oh my God, this was such a good game.
Childhood naivety of gaming is something that I think all of us wish we could just fall back into. I remember when the Assassin's Creed 3 trailer came out and I was so hyped to play this game. It would have been the first Assassin's Creed game that I was playing that I knew about before it was coming up to release. So,
bro, when you think about it in that way, every subsequent installment of Assassin's Creed is somebody's first interaction with Assassin's Creed. Like, I think, what is it, like the French one or the Valhalla one, those weren't reviewed so great, but from like the massive, but you have to think that like some little kid is like interacting with this game and it's the first time that they're playing an Assassin's Creed game, and they might think this is like the cool, like the bee's knees. This is cool beans. All right, this is so cool. And then all of a sudden, maybe they go online and maybe they look at the reviews about it. Then, oh, why is everybody saying this game is bad? Huh? What? Man.
So I was hyped, and leading up to it, one of the biggest channels on YouTube at the time, Smosh, made a music video talking about it, and it just kind of brought in even more hype for the game. I asked my mum if she could pre-order the game from Argos for me, so that the day it came out I could just jump straight into it. Then the day finally came. 20th of October 2012. Assassin's Creed 3 finally came out. It was one of the biggest step-ups in the franchise since the second game.
Oh yeah, Assassin's Creed 3 was a big step up. 100%, dude, because like I think I started playing Assassin's Creed since like the first one, like when you're Altair, and then all of them with Ezio, and then this one, wasn't this like the Indian one where like you're Connor or something? I forgot his name. I know his first name's Connor, but his last name is something. And I think one of the last Assassin's Creed I played was, I think it was Black Flag, and I don't remember where Black Flag came in. Was it before 3 or after 3? I don't remember. But that was the one where they introduced the ship combat. And this is the one where they introduced, I don't know why, but it stuck out to me. You could like do the fluid parkour things in the forest, like up trees and shit. And I thought that was so cool.
I would wake up an hour earlier before school just so that I could play it before going. I remember walking around the snow in New York area, turning off my console to then walk in the snow as well at school. This was at the time where in the UK it actually snowed during the winter, which is something that rarely happens now. All of this childhood nostalgia mixed with naivety of the gaming world, all mixed well together to have the most fun possible, even by yourself. With every game coming out being a step up from the prior, you had AC1 to AC2 to Brotherhood. All three games were just a one-up of each other in some level. Where they then jumped to 3, where it took what they already knew and worked to make it something even better.
Yeah, they're still climbing.
Which at the time wasn't viewed that way, but in fact, looking back, was actually a great experience. Each Call of Duty was a step up from the next.
Oh yeah, like I forgot when I first started playing Call of Duty. It was probably like the third one on maybe like the Xbox or something. I played the last one on the Xbox, and then once the Xbox 360 came out, I think didn't that one start with like regular just Call of Duty Modern Warfare 1? I played that one, thought it was awesome, and then every year or 2 years or whatever the cycle was, I would just get them. I would be hooked. I would be a Call of Duty fan for a long time. And it was just awesome. They were just coming out with straight bangers. Call of Duty could not fuck up in that era.
Halo 4 became bigger in every single way from
I don't
Halo
know about
3.
that.
GTA 5 was one of the biggest jumps in gaming that we've ever seen and probably won't see until GTA 6. And then we also had many new IPs entering the franchise, and we had so many amazing games coming out within this time period of games like The Last of Us, GTA 5, Red Dead Redemption, Assassin's Creed Black Flag, Dishonored, Shadow of Mordor, Borderlands 2, then leading to games at mid of that decade coming out with stuff like The Witcher 3. For me, I would class 2010 to 2015 as the Renaissance era of gaming, letting the art drive the ship, whereas during 2016 to 2021 became the Industrial Revolution, where they were able to just churn out games and make a profit, going higher and higher every single time, testing tons of systems to see which way they could make more money. At the time, we were fine with it, as generally there wasn't a ton of backlash, but all of that would end up ending.
Because live service games weren't as much of a thing back then as they are now.
By 2018, where people started to realize truly what was happening. That was due to the success of one primary game. Obviously there was some backlash before it, but Fortnite blew up and everyone was going a bit crazy.
Fortnite! Yeah, man. Fortnite, when that shit dropped, everyone was playing that shit, dude. I think Fortnite had about the same cultural impact as World of Warcraft, every subsequent expansion, you know, from vanilla to TBC to Wrath. Like, everybody knew about Fortnite. There were, like, much the same way that World of Warcraft was on Jeopardy. Was it Fortnite? Did Jeopardy ever give Fortnite, like, a question on there? It had to have been. I guarantee you there had to have been a question somewhere in Jeopardy history where they make the answer Fortnite. That had to.
A game that sure was made by one of the biggest companies in gaming, but at the time when it came out, the first 4 seasons of this game was extremely unpolished and very basic. But it was doing better than every single COD game that had come out from the 3 years prior. How did a free-to-play game outperform the rest in this entire market? Well, I think one of the first things to consider, obviously, is the low barrier to entry. Just owning a console of some sort allowed you to play it. And the childhood fun coming back once again, for the masses to be able to compete side by side in a gaming world that really we hadn't been in for so long.
Oh, yeah. The low barrier to entry is just a huge thing. Like, if you want your game to be competitive and like esports viable, I really think you need to make it free to play, because in that, having that $60 to $70 like speed bump is gonna separate it, like, bar none.
You could just jump on and your friends or just by yourself and have,
like, think about it like this. Like, what's the barriers of entry to a lot of like real life sports? For soccer, all you need is a ball and a field, all right? And then you can get like some rocks to like signify a goal or whatever, all right? How much is a soccer ball? Like, what, 10, 20 bucks? Something like that? Okay, so you got soccer, what do you need to play basketball? You need a basketball court, all right? You know, those are at your local parks, or I'm saying all this from the perspective of United States. You need a ball and you need a basketball court. How much is a basketball? 20, 30 bucks or something? I don't know. Same thing with football. What do you need to play football? A football, all right? At minimum. Very low barrier to entry.
tons of fun. When I was younger, I remember being able to play for hours on end without any issues. I'd be able to jump on at 4 PM right after school and then play every single night until 10 or 11 PM. I was able to do this because everything was new. I wanted to be better than all of my friends no matter what. I never wanted to be on the same level as them in terms of a competitive standpoint. I simply enjoyed everything I played because my friends also played tons of them. It wasn't just online games that was the case either. That was also single player games.
Bro, when I was just out of high school, I made the horrible decision of not going into college instantly, but I just went to go to work, and I worked at CC's for like 3 or 4 years-ish. I don't remember exactly. And when I first joined CC's, I was making friends with everybody, and I soon discovered that a lot of these guys, they all play Call of Duty, all right? I liked the people I work with, but I did not enjoy the job itself. So every time I went to work, we would just talk about Call of Duty or whatever single player games we were playing at the time. And then when we get off of work, we just hop online and start going to town. You know, hey, wait for Billy to come online. Wait for Mike to come online. Wait for Joe to get on. All right, we're just online playing. It was so cool, man.
Being able to walk to school, for example, or watch videos on YouTube talking about gaming, and whilst it was in its prime, especially back then when YouTube gaming was blowing up and becoming the main course of everything going on in life, at least for obviously people who are between the ages of like 10 and 15. And now I can maybe play a game for like an hour, then I'm wanting to come off. Why is that? Well, I think the first way of discussing that primary topic is going to be talking about the modern day state of gaming across the board.
Yeesh.
I feel like gaming is his.
So like me now as a 34-year-old, I think my adaptability to go from like new game to new game has probably gone down, but I can still reach like like heights of like skill, but it just takes longer. Whereas if you're a little kid, I I think I don't know, maybe I said that wrong. I was gonna say like you can just adapt to a game and just conform to like the skill set of the game quicker back in the day, but honestly, I don't know now, to be honest, because I can like confidently say now that like since I switched from like console to M&K, like FPS games, like I can aim way better now on a mouse and keyboard than I could with controller as a little kid. When I was a little kid, I thought it was hot shit. All right, I would play for hours on end, and now, I'll pop online and play Kovacs for like 2-3 hours, and I'll be like, okay, I feel like I'm done, and then I will actually be better. And then maybe when I'm done with Kovacs, I'll jump on to like some single player game and just chill, like Diablo 4 or something, and I'll just enjoy my time there for another like 2 or 3 hours. And then after that, I'll probably just call it and go to sleep.
Plateau where it's the same as the tech world, where gaming and tech can't really improve massively between each entry. It is slow changes over time, whereas back in the day every game was a step up in terms of graphics, storytelling, everything, but really one of those can still be improved no matter what, but they just choose to ignore it. Every new iPhone or Samsung phone are always improved from the last, but by such small margins that really...
Oh yeah, instead of 100 megapixels, you get 101 megapixels. Instead of 3 lenses, you now get a 4th lens.
It doesn't warrant having an entirely brand new phone every single year. But why do we end up feeling like every single phone has changed every single year? It's because they decide to change it physically, so it looks like there is a big change.
Yeah.
With games, it's the exact same issue. Just replace the iPhone with COD and Samsung with 90% of the AAA titles that are coming out. The reason why this became such a massive issue is that companies didn't want to move the ball forward at all. They only wanted to move an inch if that meant that they made millions from that tiny change.
Yeah. Back in the day, all of your favorite AAA devs that we shit on today used to be everybody's favorite game developers back in the day. Right? Why? Because they had no reputation and they actually had to try to create a name for themselves. They had to come up with new IPs. They had to more or less force innovation. And the second they come out with a couple banger IPs, they just want to rest on their laurels of, okay, because every modern day AAA game or AAA dev they're leaning towards live service games. All right, they're coming out with less and less IPs, and they're coming out with more live service games that have a longer lifespan of 10, 20 years, so on and so forth. And the content that they claim that they're coming out with every new patch, it's like, what is it? It's cosmetics, it's gun skins, it's maybe you could get something decent like a DLC or an expansion, but who's to say that those aren't just copy pastes of the base game, and like how much of it is like new mechanics for your favorite game, the DLC. It's probably going to be on a game by game basis, but for the most part, when a DLC or an expansion comes out, there's not much that like changes.
The big issue with the gaming world was when it became such a pathological idea behind money making over the creativity and love for the craft that completely got obliterated once companies realized how much money there is in the gaming sphere. The people who make the decisions at these big companies typically don't play games, and if they do, maybe they play it every now and again.
Yes, because when your job is creating games, you don't really want to go home and play games. Because when you when you create games, the last thing you want to do is go home and just engulf yourself in more games, right? Maybe you want to chill out from games. Maybe you want to read a book, watch a TV show, do some other hobby, go to the gym, or something that's not game related, right? Like when my buddy came back from Full Sail College, he got like some degree in some sort of animation. I forgot it was 2D or 3D animation. But when me and him were talking, I asked him, "Oh, can you like are movies ruined for you?" And he's like, "Yeah, pretty much. Like I can pick out any scene from a movie and be able to tell you what's CGI and what's not. I can tell you that that background is CGI, that midground is CGI, the foreground CGI, like any part of the dude's costume is CGI. The enemy he's fighting is, what parts of the enemy is CGI, and it's like, dang, dude, it takes away all of the spectacle when you're just engrossed in it.
Or they play it with their kids or grandkids. People who went to uni for game development, or people who got into voice acting because they loved games, just ended up being destroyed by the machine that is modern day gaming.
Yeah.
Companies like Ubisoft and Activision know that they'll make a load of money by putting out a load of subpar games instead of risking it to make even more money because they make an amazing game. Last year was the first ever time Activision decided to take a year off of making Call of Duty games. It was the same for Ubisoft, because back when they released Assassin's Creed Syndicate, it was met with a lot of backlash because there was nothing changing in the franchise. They took a year off and released Origins, a game that to this day I still think is one of the best Assassin's Creed games. Which is overall a good thing. Them taking a year off is proof that they know that something needed to change. Work had to be put in to release good games. But due to the corporatization and the lack of willingness to try new projects, people ended up with the same game that was slightly improved year to year. Now we're at the point where games just can't improve dramatically when it comes to the graphics or audio. The quality.
One of the reasons why you can't have big jumps anymore is simply, I don't know if it's a simple thing. It's like a complicated thing. Like, who are you gonna make your game for? The high-end 10K PC bro, or the middle of the road console enjoyer? And then on the bottom side, you have like people that had decent PCs back in the day, but now they're like 5-10 years old. Maybe they still have 1080s in their computer. So there's a large range of technological limitations when it comes to making a games, or any game really.
Is pretty much as high as it can be. The only way that games can improve now is by having a compelling story and world design that's actually intriguing to run around.
Yeah.
I end up finding myself wanting to run around Elden Ring, for example, a game that I suck at, I get destroyed in. I do not do well in Souls-like games.
I'm working on it right now.
There is something about the world design in that game that is phenomenal in comparison to all of the Ubisoft games when it comes to the new generation Assassin's Creed. I don't want to run around Viking England in Assassin's Creed Valhalla, where the world is so dull that you end up putting your horse into auto sprint and looking at TikTok or YouTube for 15 minutes until your horse gets to your destination. But it's not just down to the creative compression that's gone on within the gaming world, but it's also the fact that there's a lack of just excitement for new releases in the gaming world right now. Now, the lack of care for the new releases, to me, comes down to two main things. One is just growing up, and the second thing, like I've previously discussed, when you were a kid, everything you played was new. Everything was...
Oh, yeah. 100%, dude. Like, anytime... Like, when I would see a game, I would probably first see it in, like, some Game Informer magazine, or, like, on a billboard cutout when I walk into EB Games. And because I would see those things as a little kid, I'd be like, ooh, what's that game? Ooh, what's that game? Ooh, Game Informer just gave this game a 7 out of 10. That's average. Oh, it gave this game an 8 out of 10. That must mean it's better than average. Oh, a 9 out of 10. Oh my god, I gotta say this. Oh.
Was always a brand new experience.
And also, I might be misstating something, but didn't back in the day, like, video games had more commercials on TV? I'm not sure about that, but I think that would also play a factor in it.
When I played GTA 4 when I was younger, I thought that that was the only thing of its kind. But that was the fourth game in the main line of the franchise. When I played Saints Row 2 for the first time, I loved that game, and that's the only Saints Row game that I truly enjoyed. But at that point of time, again, I thought that that was the only thing like it and that there was no way of improving it. But then after growing up, you start to realize things. For example, the Saints Row franchise all take massive inspiration from GTA. Skyrim was the fifth game in a 2-decade-long franchise, but to me, it was the first of its kind. I could keep going with a mixture of childish ignorance about the world itself and the lack of knowledge in the gaming world specifically.
Yeah, when you're a kid, you're not really plugged in to your surroundings. Or at least I wasn't back in the day. Maybe it's different for like modern day little kids, like 10, 11, 12-year-olds. Because they just grow up with the internet, they grow up with social media, so maybe they're a little bit more plugged into their surroundings, but who really knows? But I can say for at least for myself that when I was a little kid, I was not plugged in to the internet that much. I mean, I had dial up on my chunky ass like gray PC or whatever, where if I got a phone call mid game or some shit, I would hear all that like all those noises and whatnot.
But due to the lack of knowledge, it actually made gaming a great experience, and I think this is something that people don't talk about when they're talking about the nostalgia of games. They solely put it down to we just loved the games when we were growing up, but it's because those experiences were new experiences to us.
Yeah.
We didn't have a critical eye at that point.
Yep. When I was a little kid, I did not have a critical eye at all. You probably could have served a plate of shit to me when I was a little kid, and I would have thought it was the greatest thing since sliced bread. All right? Not gonna lie. But it just so happens that I grew up in the renaissance of gaming, and there are more bangers than there were turds. So I was lucky in that sense.
A lot of people try to defend the stance that it's not because we grew up, it's just that games became stale and boring. I agree with half of that statement. The half that I agree with is the stale and boring part of the statement. However, I do also think that people who complain about games being bad are a lot of the time the people who also play the same types of games over and over again.
Yeah, like, if your whole shtick is to just play Souls-like games, then your only perception is going to be Souls-like games. If you have no, like, at least outside concepts of, like, FPS, MMO, I don't know, stealth, whatever else, then it's very easy to think that this person's opinion can be very biased.
Such as the FPS types. When the new COD game isn't good, they believe that gaming is ruined. When Halo is boring, they believe again the industry sucks and that everything about it is bad. But instead of them taking some time out of their days to play something really interesting and play an amazing story-rich game that came before many of the COD games, for example, or even games recent like Red Dead 2 where you get an amazing story, they don't want to do that because they view it as a waste of time. Why would they spend so many hours in a game like Red Dead when really they could play COD every hour, every day, and apparently get the same level of fun? Another part of getting older is the realization that gaming...
And also, those two games, they're like completely different genres and offer two different experiences. Call of Duty is like high action, high engagement. You know, you have to like know what you're doing the whole time. You're sitting there like slide canceling everywhere. Like you're dolphin diving. You're like bouncing around corners and shit to like try to get a kill and drop shotting in 360. All this jazz. RDR. Yes, there might be a couple instances of like that, but at least with RDR, there's a lot of downtime, and you can just enjoy the story and environment around you.
Truly doesn't matter. Before you start writing in the comment sections about how you're a 25 or 40-year-old man who loves playing games and still talks about it all the time, just remember that you are not the majority of people.
That is pretty true, but I would say that video games are more widely accepted now versus back in the day. So, I mean, shit, dude, I know plenty. Whether or not you think mobile gamers are gamers is a whole nother thing, but I know plenty of adults, like older than me, and I'm 34. I know plenty of adults that just sit there on their phone and play like mobile games just to pass the time. All right, so I mean, you can take that into account, but yes, I would say adults as gamers is a minority when it's compared to the general population of the United States. But I would also say that that minority has a trending, like it's trending upward.
Most men and women do not care about games in the first place, let alone started playing them.
Right.
It's not until really my generation, which is, for example, Gen Z and millennials, where you have that barrier where so many people played games. I remember so many people in school who played games. This was across the board, no matter who they were. They tried playing games because it was a great hobby to play when you're younger. You could sink so much time into it. With a lot of people holding the...
Yeah, a lot of games nowadays, it's like you need... A lot of these live service games, you need to be fully invested, all right? You need to play multiple hours a day to keep up, or if you're playing a single player game, you got to like watch all the videos to figure out what's good, what's bad. Or if you don't even watch the videos, you have to just do the whole trial and error thing yourself. And as an adult, it's hard to segregate time in your day to do that. You know, you got your wife, your kids, your job, your real life friends, and all that stuff taking up your time. So for you to try to take time for yourself, I mean, it's tough.
Belief of gaming being dead comes down to the realization that gaming truly doesn't matter. Adulting starts to kick in and you become aware of a lot more things outside of this bubble that most of us who loved games growing.
I mean, but I would also say it's important for adults to have hobbies. All right, your hobby can't just be your job or your wife and kids. You have to do stuff that makes you happy personally, like at least like an hour or two a day. Like, come on, man.
Growing up were sat in for so long. Now, what you should and shouldn't care about is not what I'm talking about here. I believe that gaming is obviously a hobby. It's something that should be put in and categorized as such. For example, a lot of people who say the words gaming is a waste of time also are the same sorts of people who go and spend 2 hours of their life watching a football match every Saturday, then discussing it for hours on end throughout the week, and they basically...
Oh no, they're not just talking about football. They're talking about their fantasy league while watching football, while the game is happening, and they're tracking their points in real time. They're shit talking their players in their league at the same time, and it's a whole thing, man, 100%. And whether or not you think fantasy league is a game or not is a whole nother argument. All right.
Basically become walking contradictions. It's
True.
depressing, but becoming aware that responsibility strips us of our innate childlike persona that will always be there, but only comes out of very specific things, as we've basically been trained most of our lives to put that aside, because obviously we have to start stepping up to becoming an adult. A big part of adulting is that realization of how much games cost. How is The Last of Us Part 1?
Oh yeah. So in the case of like $60 and $70 games, there's at least like an upfront cost. With live service games, the amount of money you spend on the game is kind of ambiguous, because if a live service game is doing its job correctly, it's trying to entice you to buy all of its cosmetics, its skins and emotes and songs and whatnot. All right. If it's not doing that, it's a bad live service game.
£70. It's a remake, sure, but come on, that's ridiculous. Overall, it's not just because it's the same game from before, just with updated graphics. That's not my issue with the game. It's the fact that £70 is a ridiculous amount of money to be paying for a game. Sure, people may use the argument of, well, you go out and you spend £70 on stuff. Currently, I don't. I still have no money. Most of my money is gone purely because, guess what? My car costs over $70.
Yeah, dude. But like I would say the average person has very little to almost no money for like $60 and $70 games. More like, you know, I now understand like the trend is like there's $70 games or like now, but like when you're like a 30-year-old person, you got your car payment, your car insurance, you got maybe your rent, you got food, you got your phone payment, your phone insurance, maybe, and then you have everything else. You got your gas, maybe do you own a house or do you not own a house? Did something catastrophic happen to you just recently? And then maybe you pay for some like entertainment shit, like the streaming services, and then that takes up a spot. So there's a ton of other things that take up your paycheck. Games is like one of the last things to try to claim a spot on your budget.
£70 to fill up. It's stupid. It's not even like you could turn around and say, well, the cost of everything's going up, so we need to start charging the game more. Because it's not that. Most of these games that come out at £70 already have a ridiculous amount of monetization in them. It makes people not want to play games because there's such a high barrier to entry now that you have to pay £70 to play a game.
But also, on the flip side, nobody is forcing you to pay these ridiculous microtransaction fees or to buy the game in the first place. All right. Me personally, I don't even buy games on day one for the most part. I mean, the last game I bought on day one was probably Armored Core 6. But up until that point, I just wait for games to be out for a year or two figure out whether or not it's a good game, what do all the reviews say about it, try to avoid any spoilers, and just wait till that shit goes on sale on Steam or whatever little game store.
And even £50 for some games is ridiculous. How is, for example, many of the Nintendo games still at their ridiculously high price tag when they're like 5 years old? It's absurd. As let's say you're earning £1,200 a month, maybe £1,500 a month. The average salary, for example, in the UK, if you're on a living wage, you're going to be getting just around £1,500.
Yeah.
That
sucks. But like $600-700 like a week, every 2 weeks? That's dog shit, man. You're like almost not even living. You're like barely scraping by.
Living wage, that's not minimum, so you'll be taking home less than that if you just go off of minimum wage.
Yeah.
It still ends up becoming a massive chunk of your money from all of the money that you end up having left over after all of your bills. I still live with my parents and will do for some time. I know that I will not be able to afford the newest games right away all the time. It's something that I've had to come to accept.
Yeah.
When after everything comes out of my account, I'm only left with like...
I mean, plus you can just watch people play games and whatnot to figure out if you want to get the game and experience the shit yourself. There's always that.
£120 to maybe £200 a month, and paying £60 for a game just isn't doable. Everything is going up in price, so I'm not fully surprised, obviously. Like, yes, I said earlier how, for example, it's ridiculous because everything's going in price, you can't use that as an argument. But again, it's like one of those things where people can use it and people will defend that argument, so I guess, sure. But when you consider that there's so many multiplayer titles out there that make tons of money,
oh yeah,
that have not needed to increase the price.
Well, because the price of a multiplayer game. Okay, so first of all, most multiplayer games are probably FPS, and most FPS multiplayer games are, at least the multiplayer part, they're gonna come in the form of live service, in that the game is free to play. You pay nothing, you just download the game. So how do they make money? They make money off of the ridiculous microtransactions in the form of skins, gun skins, emotes, so on and so forth. And I would argue the costs of the microtransactions in FPS live service games are just going up and up. That's what I would say. But it's so ridiculous. It's ridiculous because gamers keep buying these things in FPS live service games. They keep buying them because if they didn't buy them, the devs wouldn't increase the prices as much. All right, but since gamers keep on buying them, they're trying to find that little break point where the masses think it's like ridiculous. All right, and we've already seen that. Okay, we've seen like mythic skins in Overwatch. We've seen like heirlooms in Apex. It's like a $500 pity timer if you actually buy the loot boxes for an heirloom. The mythic skin, I don't know how much the mythic skin, like the mythic Genji skin or whatever, was that like $200, $300, $400? I don't remember. The Overwatch bros said that shit took a year to make. Like, get the hell out of here, dude. It takes a year to make a goddamn skin. Get the hell out, man. No shot.
Let's talk about two of the most popular games in history, Fortnite and Minecraft. Fortnite and Minecraft, for example, are, like I said, two of the most profitable games in history to ever be made. One of them is free and makes tons of money from microtransactions. I'm fine with that being a system that earns money. The game initially is free. You don't need to buy the microtransactions. You're getting value for literally paying nothing. I don't believe all games should be free, so don't worry, don't take it like that. I believe games should be charged for. But when games make tons of money, and Epic has proved this point, Fortnite has made so much money they didn't need the game to be paid for in the first place. The other,
I mean, the games are making so much money, there's going to be some percentage that goes into some person's pocket, and there's going to be some percentage that goes back into the development of the game. Who knows what those percentages are? I mean, I don't know. But I think Fortnite has done a pretty decent job of like making a shitload of money and then putting it back into the game. So I think that's fine.
Example was at £16 for the first 5 years of this game coming out. The game currently is £20. It is £20 and it still ends up selling tons every year. But how did a game that is £16 per game that you're buying of Minecraft end up becoming one of the most profitable games in history? So it can be done as long as games are actually good enough, have a great gameplay loop, and there is actually quality changes that are happening. It doesn't need to always be about making your game as profitable as possible. Releasing a new Call of Duty every year, it's £60 a year, charging a ridiculous amount of money for season passes.
Oh yeah, and not only that, the thing with Call of Duty is if you look on Steam or whatever game store has Call of Duty games, like all the old ones, those games also have not dipped in price since their release. Those games, all the old Call of Duties, they're still either their original price or they're like minus $10. That's it. I find that to be the most hilarious thing.
And then shoving in tons of microtransactions. The games don't need to be like that. Focus on making a good game first, and then you can justify charging that money. Like I previously discussed, I do believe one of the biggest issues in gaming right now is the creativity being stomped out by monetary gain.
Yeah.
As both should work in tandem together.
Oh, well, games are creative. At least the live service ones are. It's just they're not creative in the ways that you would want them. They are creative in that they try to find the most creative way to extract money out of your pocket.
The better your game is, the higher chances it will sell well. Good reviews end up turning into more and more money. It's a blatantly obvious fact that has been shown time and time again, which is a shift I think we might be seeing and I will discuss in a moment, but that is not where we're at right now. But the last 2 points that I want to make when it comes to gaming today is the lack of fun and how the older I get, the more critical I became of games. Now the first part I think is something that a lot of us can agree on no matter what, which is that gaming just isn't as fun anymore to play for long periods of time. I can't play games.
I would say it depends on the game. I really think it just depends on the game and what you're trying to get out of the game. I mean, obviously now, as a 34-year-old, I can't, start a game up and just ride the dopamine high from beginning of the session to the end of the session. I mean, I don't think I can do that anymore, nor would I want to. Like, I get sweaty, I get tired, all right? I play on M&K, my arms get tired, I'm moving shit around, all right? Hey, it is what it is.
Games for more than 2 hours at a time without feeling either drained or as if I've just wasted 2 hours of my life. The only time that doesn't happen is if I had a really great time. Be that with...
I mean, when it comes to you thinking that you wasted your time, that's going to depend from game to game. But honestly, if you don't like a game, like, and you're playing it, I would say just stop playing the game, dude. Like, it shouldn't take a game multiple hours for the game to get good. That is ridiculous. If, like, for me, if I'm playing a game, if I'm not hooked within an hour or so, I'm out. Fuck this. This is dumb. I'm not playing your dog shit game. All right?
To my friends, or a game that's been so compelling, when I end up turning it off, I just want to continue playing, which again has been very rare over the last 5 years.
A game is, I would say, probably bad if when you turn it off, you go to bed or you go to work and you're not thinking / dreaming about the game and playing the game. All right? That's what happened to me whenever I was playing World of Warcraft, when I was playing Call of Duty, Halo, Skyrim, so on and so forth. Anytime I was not playing those games, I would be going to my job or I'd be sleeping and I'd be dreaming about playing those games.
When my friends end up playing games for like 4 hours straight, it just feels weird to me now. I used to be able to do it so much and I just can't now. I've got a bad relationship when it comes to productivity within games, which I've discussed previously, but I will make a video on at some point. But when it comes to it, I just end up feeling annoyed at myself, typically because I feel like I've wasted time. But also, I always end up on edge afterwards just because of the way I have to be, like, zoned in so heavily with games for me to care about them in any way.
You know what that sounds like? I'm going to make a ridiculous analogy. So I kind of work out a little bit. And there was this one point a couple years ago where I decided to try to cut weight, reasonably for a couple months. So I think I did it for like 3 or 4 months. And I would like download the little MyFitnessPal app, import any food that I would eat. There'd be like the carbs, proteins, fats, all the micronutrients and whatever. And I would track all that shit and slowly over the course of time, just reduce the amount of calories I ate. And it wasn't until I got done with the cut and I started going back, I went back to eating like a normal diet, that I realized what I was doing before the cut. in that when I was like doing the cut, I realized I was just eating food for fuel versus before I was emotionally eating. I would have too much emotion tied to eating a meal or something like that. And after I got done with the cut, I was like, oh, wow, this feels really good to have just the emotion removed from eating food, like on a day-to-day basis. Like, it's not bad to have like some sort of emotional connection with food, but to have the emotional connection to be so strong, I think that's a little worrying. That's why you have like obese people or and whatnot, because their emotional connection to food is very strong. They don't realize it because it's like they're in it. All right, but I just didn't realize that until I got done with the cut, and I'm like, oh wow, okay, this is a nice little, like life check.
Everything about me when I play games just becomes more negative, and this is an issue that's not just with me. The amount of times I have conversations with people who talk about quitting games, and from my own experience of when I quit for like half a year during 2019, I end up thinking back to that time quite often, and I just think about how generally I was a lot happier. Maybe that's because gaming is more of an addiction for me, and that I have to try and toe the line between it and not let it spiral. But really, I don't know. I could be addicted to games, and that's the reason why I have a negative issue and try my...
I mean, even nowadays with me, I mean, I'm addicted to playing like aim trainers, but not overly much. Like I enjoy playing it on like a daily basis to try to get better aim and whatnot and be decent at FPSs, but I don't think I'm like crazy addicted. I'm just like moderately addicted, kinda.
My best not to play them as much. I know that I sink too much time into them when I get into them, and that's why I typically don't let myself play games that much. But then there's the critical side. I became more critical of games over the years, and now I have a channel where the main piece of content that I focus on is big video game essays. But when you get older, you start to...
I mean, I like big video game essays. I think they're great. There's nothing wrong with that.
Realize more and more about the gaming world as a whole than you ever saw beforehand when you were younger. You see the legalities of it, the acquisitions, the way staff get treated, and much more, and it ends up giving you such a negative point of view on many different games that
Okay, this whole humanization... am I saying that right? Humanization? Humanizing devs is ridiculous. No other aspect of your life is dictated, really, by how the person is treated that made the thing. Because if you thought like that, then you wouldn't be wearing any clothes, all right? Look at the clothes you're wearing, look at the shoes you're wearing, the chips in your computer, and so on and so forth. Somewhere, some little kid in China or Africa or wherever the fuck made that. And in those countries, the child labor laws aren't that strict, all right? Somewhere, people are being dehumanized to make all of these modern day amenities. All right. So having that as a prerequisite to being a good game, it's not. It's simply not a prerequisite. Yes, it sucks. And I would say the government needs to do like a little bit better job in those areas in terms of like regulation and whatnot. But having my developers being humanized is not a prerequisite for a good game. It simply isn't. I mean, it sucks. I wish it wouldn't be like that, but it just is what it is.
The younger version of your naive self that used to trash on games like Call of Duty Ghosts, for example, because your favorite YouTuber was telling you it's awful, just didn't know about. You're basically ending up falling into the trap of everyone else's belief systems, obviously, because that's just how things work anyway. But in turn, it's something that all of us fall into the trap of nowadays. If a game gets released and it doesn't live up to an expectation that you had, even if they didn't set that expectation, you'll have a critical viewpoint of it. And then obviously you have the latter half of people's viewpoints.
And I mean, because in recent history, in the last like year or two, maybe 3, there have been a lot of developer apologies coming out because they released a shitty game on day one. All right. Look at No Man's Skies. Look at Cyberpunk. Look at what's that one like vampire game? Or, like, what was it, Redfall or some shit? And there's a ton of other games that got released on day one, and they were turds.
which is the idea that you should just be grateful for what you got, which is a stance that I don't agree with either.
Nah, if you're a developer and you release a dog shit game on day one, I'm just not going to play your game. How about that? There's nothing in the law that says I am forced to play your shitty game. No, thank you. I'll go play something else. Maybe I'll come back in like a year or two when the game is good.
All of this ends up adding up until the day that you feel as if everything you dislike has a justifiable criticism. And now we just end up playing games in hope that we're going to be able to catch lightning in a bottle twice and relive our childhood. And to be honest, as bad as it is to say, it just won't ever happen.
I don't think it won't ever happen. It's just a ridiculously low percent that it will ever happen again. Probably like a 1% chance, to be honest, if anything. But most likely, the older you get, it seems like that lightning in a bottle effect probably won't happen, but I can't say it will never happen. I mean, I would like for it to happen. You know, as you get older, it's, I don't know, more or less harder to make friends or whatever. And a lot of the games I played back in the day were kind of dictated by how many friends I was playing with as well. So if you have less friends when you're older, then those games that require you to have friends and do group play with, you know, those are off the table. It's like a good chunk of games.
Before I talk about some of the more positive aspects of why I think that gaming isn't dead, or at least we're entering a world where gaming is becoming a little bit better, I also want to talk about some of the outliers over the last 4 years, and I'm also going to compare it against 2010 to 2014. The reason why I did this is because, again, I consider that 5-year gap, 2010 to 2015, as the Renaissance era, and then 2016 to 2021, for example, as the just everything being released for the sake of making tons and tons of money. But during that period, even if you took 2016 to then 2020, you're still going to have the same result that I've come to realize from this list. As really, during 2018 to 2022, it hasn't all been doom and gloom. We know that. I think the best way of talking about a lot of these games is in order of release. I found about 8 games on the lists of games that came out in the last 4 years. They've actually been standout games, which works out to 2 games a year, which isn't bad. But when you look at the years...
Ugh. That does not sound good when you put it into quantitative form like that. 2 bangers a year versus back in the day, it was like 5, 6, 7 a year. Like, dang. That's down stonks to me.
Is between 2010 and 2014 with games like Red Dead 1, Halo Reach, Assassin's Creed Brotherhood, Black Ops 1, Arkham City, Skyrim, Deus Ex Human Revolution, Modern Warfare 3, Dishonored, Borderlands 2, Mass Effect 3, Far Cry 3, Halo 4, Black Ops 2, Hitman Absolution, Sleeping Dogs, Last of Us, GTA 5, Bioshock Infinite, Assassin's Creed Black Flag, Pokemon X and Y, Crysis 3, Shadow of Mordor, Destiny 1, Far Cry 4, Titanfall 1, and Dark Souls 2. All of those games came out between that 4-year span.
Hey, and you forgot Titanfall 2. You said Titanfall 1, Titanfall 2.
Some of those games are somewhere within the good and amazing category. But again, let's talk about the outliers, as I do believe they do deserve some level of conversation anyway. The list itself is Red Dead 2, God of War, Spider-Man, Star Wars Fallen Order, Ghost of Tsushima, Last of Us Part 2, It Takes Two, and Elden Ring. The first game on this list that I'm going to talk about is Red Dead 2. If you want to see a full video essay talking about this, make sure to go check out the 3-hour long video that I put out. But anyway, let's continue on this topic. This game to me stood out for 2 main reasons: the quality of the product and the story itself within the game. Now, the game was a massive jump in quality, and we haven't seen this jump since GTA 5 came out. And
I still haven't played RDR2. I played the first one. The first one was a straight banger. I haven't gotten around to play the second one yet. I need to.
It's something that only a company like Rockstar can do, in my opinion. The game world feels real, and the story is also amazingly well told. This game's world is something that no other game has been able to pull off, which is a relatively boring time in history, non-fantasy world, that is a piece.
Bro, the Wild West is not a boring time in history. There's a reason it was called the Wild West. It was wild because there weren't a lot of rules being enforced.
feeling to just walk around in due to the random encounters within the game and utilizing the 40-second rule very well. Then you have a game like God of War, which is again another game that is considered one of the best games and beat Red Dead 2 as Game of the Year for 2018, which is a story about a father and son bonding together. I haven't fully played the game yet, so I'm not going to talk too much about it, but from general consensus, this game is considered one of the best and most amazing stories told. And the reason why this game performed so well is because they were able to do two things very well together. They mixed the gamer's love of skull-crushing enemies with an axe and a story that is relatable on many levels. It's a game that I can't wait to play, and when I do, like I mentioned, I will be making a video out of it, as it's something that I always hear about over and over again. Then you have Spider-Man, which is a game that, again, I love for two reasons. Its narrative was really enjoyable, and I think they pulled off a story about Spider-Man in a game and made loads of villains work really well together, without it feeling as if they cut any corners. But also because they took what they knew worked from the Arkham franchise and just gave it to Spider-Man with a little bit of a twist with a new story that again was believable and was one of the actual most heart-wrenching stories I've played in a good while.
Dang. Because I remember I played the Arkham video games for Batman, and those were straight bangers. So I think I'm okay with, I don't know who made like the Spider-Man or whatever. If it was the same company, great. And they just took that same formula and just dropped it onto the Spider-Man universe, I think that's fine.
Again, it's just another standout of these times. You've then got Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, which I will be making, again, another big video about it. But if you want some views of this game, I do have a video talking about the importance of this game, as I do truly believe this was one of the most important games to come out recently. As to me, what this game pulled off was...
So, I think he's about to just hint, because this was a game released by EA, and at the time, a couple years before, some big EA executive said something about, oh, single players aren't profitable and blah, 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 blah. And then they released this game, and then it sold like a shitload of units or something. Like how many units did they release? Like 10 million or something? That's pretty good for a video game to release like 10 million units. That's about 10 million players, all right, on day one. And if this game was $70, that's about $70 million of profit. I don't know how much the game cost to make, all right? It's probably going to be some amount, and they were probably in the green with this game. But whenever a big EA exec says single players aren't profitable, I'm just going to imagine that he's going to compare this to the amount of effort it takes to make a single, like a multiplayer, like live service game, where it's very low effort to create it, and you get a big profit margin. Whereas a single player game, it takes a high amount of effort to create it, but maybe you still make profit, but you not as much as like the easy game, the live service game. So yeah.
Proving to everyone that EA were wrong about the industry at large.
Yeah.
That single-player games were not profitable. They believed that. They thought single-player gaming was dead. And what did they do? They released a single-player game, which is one of their best-selling games when it comes to anything close to what they did with FIFA, for example, or The Sims.
Yeah.
Then you've got Ghost of Tsushima.
And if you're gonna sit over here and say that single players are dead, EA, then I'm gonna go ahead and say multiplayer games are dead. Because as far as FPS goes, I still don't think there's a lot of great FPS games out there. But that's just an opinion, all right? It's here or there.
Tsushima, which again is another game that I haven't got round to playing. I do have it, so I will be playing it very soon. However, everything that I hear about the game is what people praise Assassin's Creed for, but they've done so much better within this game than the likes of Odyssey or Valhalla. The lack of Assassin's Creed in the title, obviously because it's not made by Ubisoft, made it an open world game that people enjoyed without feeling like they were forced to take a specific path. This game showed for one of the first times a true samurai story that you've ever seen in gaming. And then you have The Last of Us Part 2, which yes, it was one of the more controversial ones on this list. I do think though the game excelled in one thing, and that was quality. This game showed us how amazing a game can look and how great quality they can make a game stand out in comparison to every single game out there, from a visual standpoint and video game acting standpoint. I know that people hate the game for some justifiable reasons, for example,
Really?
obviously the story.
I had no idea. Like Last of Us 2, like people like didn't like it or it was mixed, something like that. I didn't play the first one, and I didn't play the second one. I just haven't gotten around to it yet.
Telling is a little bit lackluster over the constant up and downs of the story, but it's something that I will be talking about again in a future video. It Takes Two is a game that's very simple to explain why people loved it so much, and that is because over the last 8 years, couch co-op gaming has basically just fallen into the sidelines. No games are really made with co-op in mind anymore, at least couch co-op gaming, to the point
I remember playing a ton of games back in the day that were couch co-op, most specifically Halo. I loved Halo multiplayer, like 1, 2, and 3. You could just sit there, split screen campaign, and just go to town on Legendary. Oh, it was so fun.
Where many different Call of Duties don't even have it as a feature anymore. Whereas this game...
Did Call of Duty used to have like couch co-op for the campaign at least? Or like maybe the Spec Ops in some of the older games? I don't remember.
Was actually great fun to play, and it was just something that reminded me of playing games like Halo 3, for example, playing through the campaign with me and my friend sat there. Then you have Elden Ring, which does everything right, most things anyway. I don't really want to get too much into Elden Ring, as I feel like every single YouTuber on the planet has spoken about this game very well, but I did want to talk about how they basically took the idea of open world gaming and explored it to the very heart of the concept. I don't even know personally what's going on half the time when I'm running around in the world itself, but I end up finding myself just enjoying the time that I spend running around the map. It was a game that was just a step up across the board in terms of everything from a gameplay perspective that has not been touched anywhere near within the last 2 years. But all of those games have two things in common. They're all pretty much single player games, besides It Takes Two. But to me, that game is a couch co-op game, so it's not single player obviously because you're playing with another person, but to me it's meant to be played as a couch co-op experience, so it's close to single player. All of these games though were either a one-up of everything that came before, or had an amazing, compelling narrative, and sometimes both. And most of the games nowadays aren't doing that. They just try to make what they knew worked before and keep making it over and over again, hoping people still care about it if you make it look slightly different. So instead of improving the baseline of what they consider good enough, they try and improve side areas that truly don't matter as much. But I'm actually hopeful. I think many of these games show a reason, and Elden Ring is one of the first ones. Now,
I mean, ideally, I wish a lot of the game genres could innovate more often, but I would also have to agree with, if you're trying to innovate and add mechanics to a game, the base skill level of your favorite game genre has to go up. And not everybody is going to be able to reach that skill level. You know, even if you add just like one mechanic, that's going to be like a barrier to, you know, your player base. All right. So whenever you're making a game, you have to understand that the game isn't going to be catered to you and your skill level. It has to be catered to the masses.
In terms of any game that has broken any of the current world beliefs of gaming, I think Elden Ring is the modern day standout of what people want in a game. This game proved to the world that companies can release great games that live up to the hype. It's one of the two games, in my opinion, that was able to set aside this idea, and Red Dead 2 is the other game in there. Every single game besides that either failed to live up to the hype, or had no hype at all. Which again is fine. I think hype is what kills a lot of games, to be honest.
Oh yeah.
But this game was able to prove everyone...
Oh yeah, I don't really get hyped for games anymore. Even shooters, like my favorite genre. Like, it's just hard to get hyped up because it's not even hype anymore. Like I used to get hyped, but... and then I would play a game back in the day, and I would be like, oh, I was hyped for the game, and the game was awesome. And then I'd be hyped for another game, and maybe it wasn't as awesome. And then it would just like slowly get worse and worse. And yeah, we're just here today.
Wrong in the idea of what gaming companies are like. They didn't need a ton of microtransactions to make a load of money. It doesn't need to be full of multiplayer mechanics where obviously you can play online, but you don't need to do it. It proved that people do care just about having a good game over a game that fits everyone's needs. Not only this though, but all the games that I mentioned earlier, like I mentioned, were all single player games. Why is it that we haven't had a truly great game since Fortnite when it comes to a multiplayer perspective that brings everyone in? You might
Why haven't we had another game like Fortnite with such cultural impact? I would say games that can pierce through the gamer veil into the masses are very few and far between. I would say World of Warcraft back in the day did it. Fortnite did it. I would say Call of Duty as an overall franchise has done it, at least in the United States. I'm not sure about the rest of the world. Maybe Minecraft. Maybe Mario as a entire franchise has pierced like the masses. I don't think a lot of other games have.
Might say, oh, well, Warzone did it. Warzone kind of did for like 2 months during a lockdown period where they got very lucky with the time and setting of what the world was like when it released.
Yeah.
Or you could say Apex, but again, it's a battle royale that sure, people do care about, but it isn't on the same level as what Warzone was on or Fortnite. Really, the only game coming out that most people want to play when it comes to a battle royale at this point will be Warzone 2.0. I just don't feel like right now there is any big multiplayer game that people can actually rally behind and find amazing, which is then leading to more people experiencing a load of these single player games that they just didn't decide to play because they loved playing the new Call of Duty every year. Solo games though are starting to make a comeback, or at least I think they are. Personally, I see more and more people becoming more and more hyped for single-player games than multiplayer games. I think that is for a good reason, though. A lot of gamers have come to the realization...
You know what I think it is? It feels like a pendulum. Like, maybe a couple years, the pendulum will swing towards single-player, and then the next couple years, it swings back to multiplayer, and then maybe it swings back to single-player, and then back to multiplayer. Maybe I think that's what it is.
That multiplayer games are great for their main function, enjoyment together and having a competitive edge, but almost all of the games lack one thing, and that is depth. When the only games that you play are multiplayer, and maybe you play a little bit more than some of your friends play and you're a little bit more addicted than they are, you start to become more and more down the stream, which I would class as gaming depression, which is where you basically only play a subset of games under the illusion that you're enjoying the game, when in reality, you do not enjoy it by any means. You just can't imagine not playing it. But with single player games, you're allowed to actually enjoy something for more than just the gameplay. You get to enjoy a story, a narrative, a world, something that really a lot of the single player games that you will want to play have amazing and have been doing great things for such a long time within those areas. Look at all the communities around some of the most best-selling games and franchises and films and everything in the world. All of them have rabid fan bases because they have depth, not because they are shallow. Now, not only is the gaming world becoming more and more changed due to people loving story content, but you also have gaming companies being held way more accountable than they've ever been for the actions that they cause.
I mean, I've already mentioned the amount of... Bro, wasn't there like some collage somebody made, was on Twitter or Reddit, where they just made a collage of all the developer apologies? That was the funniest shit ever. And was there like 10 developers on there?
The games that I'll discuss in this are things like Cyberpunk, Fallout 76, Warzone, and The Last of Us Part 2. All of these games shared a level of public backlash and companies knowing that they had messed up, which is a good thing. I don't believe companies should be held to such views where they can't do anything right, as there's always a way to improve every single game, but I believe that when something is truly bad, it does need to be called out. And the companies do need to be held accountable for. Money is what they're after when it comes to any games coming out, and the only way that you can truly tell them and make them aware that the games they're releasing suck is just by not buying their games, and the money is what is backing them more than anything. Which ends up coming down to us as the customer base having to make...
But depending on the game that comes out, and what form of monetization model it has. Let's say a new live service game comes out. Let's pick something relative. For every, I don't know, 10 regular people that do not buy a microtransaction, there is most likely at least one whale that will just completely whale out and just buy everything and be able to support the monetization scheme of that game. All right. So, I mean, it's fine and dandy if you want to take a stance and not buy anything. But you got to understand that if a game that comes out has a live service model, the amount of people that it takes to keep that live service model afloat is going to be about 1%, maybe 1 to 2%. And those people are just absolute oil princes. All right? They're whales. They will spend everything. If they can't look at Diablo Immortal, any gacha game, so on and so forth. And even like the top 1% of, I don't know, any live service game and the streamers that play them, you know, they don't give a shit about spending their money on the entirety of a new store drop when all the new cosmetics came out. I gotta get them on day one and just write it off as a tax write-off. Oh yeah, most people don't do that. Most people don't write their in-game purchases as tax write-offs. Okay, that is not a norm. So yeah,
make these decisions. Cyberpunk is the best example of this ever to exist, and we've already talked about this before in the gaming community at large. But what it ended up proving is that if you release a game that is as broken as it was, as unfinished, no matter what the company's reputation prior was, you can't get away with releasing a terrible game. When I heard about Cyberpunk about 6 months before its release, I remember talking to my friends on a bike ride, and I said to them, this game will die purely because there is too much hype around it. It's for the same reason why I'm scared for a game like Elder.
I think Cyberpunk hit world record levels of hype just because of what they promised.
Scrolls 6, because I want the game to be amazing. However, I know that the closer and closer we get, the community will become so ridiculously over the top about what they expect of this game that it could.
Bro, I hope they won't ruin Elder Scrolls 6, but you know that when they release Starfield, you know 100% that they're gonna use that fucking bullshit procedural generation planet technology in their little dungeon system. All right, you know that for a fact. You know, Skyrim and Oblivion, all the dungeons were handmade by hand from people. But when they come out with that procedural generation planetary bullshit in Starfield, they're just testing it. They're gonna try to refine it into a more dungeon system, a cave system, whatever, for Elder Scrolls 6. All right. Hopefully it works out. I hope, but it's tempered expectations now. It's not really hype anymore.
Could end up killing the game before it even releases. However, the game wasn't killed just solely down to the hype. I don't think that's all you can blame it down to. I think the game was awful primarily because of two reasons. The game was way too ambitious, but also the higher-ups pushed out a game way before it was anywhere near finished. They ended up believing they could do more than they could actually handle. Cyberpunk was in development before The Witcher 3 was out anyway, and I do think that they had an ambition for that game, and once The Witcher 3 came out and did amazingly well, their ego probably grew a little bit too big. But the company was proved wrong, and that took a massive hit on their reputation, and they made another massive hit against their company in the value of the company. So they definitely won't be making the same mistake as they did with Cyberpunk ever again, and I think there is going to be a very rare instances where companies will come close to doing the same thing. Fallout 76 is the next game that didn't hit the mark on what they promised initially. By many
Bro, and let's not forget the developer apology for Battlefront 2, all right? Who cares about, like, the gameplay was decent, but the thing that ruined that game was the monetization scheme. Like, oh my god. The world's most downvoted comment in Reddit history came from some dev that made that game. Something about pride and accomplishment. What a joke that was.
Many miles, everyone knows this game is just somehow clinging to life, which has now been given full control to by the people who made Rust. Another game in this list as well of multiplayer games.
I had no idea. The people that made Rust are now controlling Fallout 76. Oh, that's too funny. The Rust guys were just like, bro, we see you. We see you thrashing, drowning in the whitewater rapids that you cannot navigate. Just drown. Stop moving. Then we'll come and get you. Okay, we got you now. That's literally how it went, dude.
This is Warzone. It's a game that was so broken that people loved the game, but when it started to alter people's overall views, it wasn't just big streamers that were affected by people who stream sniped, for example. It was because every game that you played, 1 in 3 chance.
Nah, for the masses, stream sniping wasn't... Nobody cares about stream sniping for the masses of people. what the masses of people care about is whether or not that dude that killed you was a cheater. That's literally it.
Is you were going to be running into bugs or hackers. It was ridiculous.
Yeah.
It was stupid, and there's not been a game that's come that close to as bad of a multiplayer reputation as Warzone 1.0. After 2 lackluster releases from Call of Duty, they ended up having to take a year off, and that is one thing that people did want them to do for a while. Take a year off and release a game that actually is good. For a company like Activision not to release a new game is another proof of concept that the world is changing in the world of gaming, and that companies are being held accountable way more than they were 5 years ago. And then you have The Last of Us 2, which is one of the games that honestly, it's an anomaly that I mentioned, however also the story was heavily polarizing. And one thing that this game proved is that you can't just release a narrative that you believe is good when a lot of your players are not the people who are going to love the nuance of playing as the villain when they don't want to play as the person who killed one of the most likable characters ever in gaming.
Oh, really?
It's not just down to the fact that you're playing as Abby that was the issue, it's the fact that she was generally just unlikable. The story itself flows so in and out all over the time and going up and down like as if you're on a full-blown roller coaster. It's ridiculous. And what Last of Us 2 proved yet again is that even if you aced the first game, it doesn't mean you'll be able to do it twice. The fans know more than the creators. That's one thing that people do get wrong sometimes. I believe that the idea that customers don't know what they want until they're shown it.
Bro, it's so horrible to see that this dude is trying to like get in here, but he's like, how do I get down there? Okay, I gotta get on this ledge. Okay, I'm on the ladder, and now the game thinks it wants to go up there. It's like this is still an issue in Assassin's Creed. It was an issue back in the early Assassin's Creeds, and it looks like it's still an issue now. It's like, that's so dumb.
However, I do also believe the idea that fans, if there is that much
he flew up over there.
Clash about something you've done in the game.
Okay, maybe he didn't want to go in.
The other issue with The Last of Us 2 was just that it was a really depressing game. The first game had hope within it. The second game doesn't. There is none of it. Now that we're in the conclusion part of this video, let's just talk about some things just off the top of my head. Yep. I'm very aware that obviously gaming is not dead from a monetary standpoint. I also don't believe gaming is...
Oh yeah, from a monetary standpoint, gaming is thriving. Ooh, baby. It has never been a better time to be a game dev, making gacha games, live service games. Money is just flowing like water.
Necessarily dead. I think we're now entering a new stage where companies are being held accountable for what they make for the first time, properly anyway, because obviously there was accountability beforehand, but nowadays gaming has got so much more of a bigger light on it, and its market share dominates now.
I mean, gaming has a bigger light on it because more people are playing games.
In the entertainment community, or at least is heavily dominant, let's say, but really it's something that they now actually have to look into, is making good games. And another thing I want to mention within this, and it's something that I will make a video on properly, which is when I'm talking about gaming being a waste of time, I don't believe that it's solely a waste of time, just because obviously you could be doing so much better with it, because that's...
Gaming is not a waste of time unless you think you're wasting your time. If you think you're wasting your time with the game, stop playing the game, all right? As long as you're enjoying your time playing a game, it's time not wasted.
That's the issue for myself, is when I play games, I end up down this belief that, oh, I could be doing so much better things for myself. However, I then realize that obviously...
What could you be possibly doing to better yourself than just enjoying yourself? I don't know.
Would I actually be doing the things I think I would be doing when not playing games? Probably not. But also, I do stand by the idea that for you to enjoy life, you have to have downtime in between the moments of being absurdly productive. So it's not the case that I think everything is awful and that you shouldn't play games. I do love games, so don't worry about that. And the other thing is that I do think that there are companies out there that do want to release good games. I do think that companies are wanting to currently make great games again that have a great, interesting narrative, purely because if they don't, they're failing nowadays. If you do not make a game with a great narrative and all that it's got going for it is multiplayer, it may work for some. However, if you want to dominate a market, which most games want to do, they don't want to just take a little portion of it. They want the whole thing, or at least as much as they can take. They don't need to release a lackluster story with a good multiplayer. That's not how it works. Just release both and have them at a good standard as well. Now, that all being said, this is the end of the video now, so obviously if you guys did enjoy this video, make sure to leave a like and do subscribe for more content. I upload gaming content every Friday and whatever I want on Wednesdays. This video is one of the think piece sort of videos that I'm going to do every now and again. It's something that I only do for things that are topics that I find actually interesting. The last video that I did this for was talking about the idea of productivity within gaming, how maybe you should try quitting games for a period of time to then learn how you deal with it, as I feel like a lot of people who hold the belief that you should never quit gaming or that gaming is not bad for you in any way.
I mean, gaming isn't either good or bad. It is simply a hobby. That's all it ever was. That's all it ever is. That's all it will ever be.
Typically the ones who are addicted to games, and that if you take a little bit of a break, you may find yourself enjoying life more, and if you do enjoy life more, you may choose to either completely stop or at least take a step back and start doing more things in your life that you enjoy over playing games.
Yeah.
But yeah, with that all being said, like I mentioned, if you did enjoy, make sure to leave a like, do subscribe for more content on this channel, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Have a good one.
Nice. What a good video. God dang. What a banger. As far as is gaming dying, I think you could probably break this question down into each genre to figure out, like, I mean, yes, you could ask this question of the gaming as an entirety as a hobby, but I think another good question that you could ask is like, is this gaming genre dying? Is that gaming genre dying? I think that's a little more productive than as gaming as a whole, but I can also understand that if you ask this question as a whole, you have to take every genre into consideration. And as far as the second question, are we entering a new age? You damn right we are. Whether you like it or not, there's more new live service games, battle passes, so on and so forth. Some games are doing it, some games aren't. Who knows? Just, hey, pick your poison, man. Whatever it is. All right. But yeah, I thought this was a great video, man. What a banger. I want to see more from Exiled. It's freaking awesome, dude. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I'll catch you guys on the next one. See ya.